All right, welcome to the February 27th meeting for the California Pirate Party. My name is Bryce, and we will start off with the president's report. How about Orion? Why don't you take us away?
All right. Well, hello everybody. I hope you're having a good night. We actually have quite a few developments going on right now. Um, Last Friday, Bryce and Laura and I met at the bank. We made everything official and currently updated for our bank account and did all the paperwork for that. That's fantastic. We also signed all of the papers to submit to the California Secretary of State. Right now, we're just waiting on snail mail to reach its destination and then receive a confirmation page with a stamp. And once we get the stamp from the Secretary of State, we will be able to start accepting donations and do a lot of other things that are currently on hold. I know that there are people still working on the website, and I'm sure we'll hear a little bit about each of these things over the course of the meeting. Let's see. In addition to that, we have been we've been talking about using new software for our Google Hangouts, or instead of Google Hangouts as our normal meeting space. And I think we were supposed to have tonight's meeting using that new system, but not all the kinks are worked out yet. So I'm pretty sure this will be our last Google Hangout meeting if everything works. So, you know, I mean, that's totally fine. Let's see. We have a new social media, we have a nominee for a new social media manager, which I think is really important because one of the things that I wanted to talk about tonight is re-upping on using our platforms to actually have policy discussions. Right before the meeting, I was flipping through the blog on the website, and one of the things I really liked about the blog is that anybody who wants to can write up a 3 or 4 paragraph argument for any policy issue. I mean, want to write a paragraph about single payer healthcare and why that's something that we should advocate for. You know, write an article about the current state of political rhetoric. You know, I mean, I think all of those things would be really interesting. So one of the other things I want to talk about tonight is just to see if anybody's interested in writing up arguments and sort of generating debate. It doesn't just have to be for the website, but it could also be on the Oh, sorry, that's my echo. So anyway, I do want to talk about the blog. And in addition to that, I wanted to just update in my opening comments about recent developments in the news that I think are relevant to us. In the last 48 hours or 72 hours, the White House the FCC rescinded the Obama-era net neutrality rules. So our relationship to internet service providers and what sorts of options are available to us in the future are going to become questionable. I think that's something that we should be talking about. So there are certain news-related items. I was just mentioning before the meeting went live that I read an article yesterday saying that Trump wants to increase military spending by 10% and pay for it by gutting the Environmental Protection Agency and other critical, important domestic programs. Which, I mean, if you're a fascist dictator, then, you know, you kind of need a military to help you out. And I understand why he would want to increase military spending by 10%, given his position and reputation and choices. So just a couple other things to mention before I pass it off to Bryce. You know, my wife, Sharon, is currently training to become a certified yoga instructor. And over the course of her training, she's been going to different classes all over the Bay Area and has ended up telling me that she's been in conversations with several people about the Pirate Party. And she would really like some business cards or something that she could hand out to people just with like our logo and basic info about where to find our meetings and stuff. And so I think that would be a good use of money to, you know, get some just cards that we could hand out to people, you know, as a result of conversations that we're having, since we've been talking about, you know, activating our individual conversations with people in our lives. to spread the Pirate Party. So that's something that's interesting. So I guess, I mean, I know that was kind of disorganized, you know, but I think that's a pretty good summary of where we're at.
Oh, that's a great summary for where we're at. And actually, I know that there's plenty of services that offer free business cards for individuals and organizations. I don't mind looking into that. I think that that's absolutely a really important piece to that, to outreach and to be making sure that like folks just have you know, something to remember us by that's physical. I'll post something on the Slack channel to remind us of that. And I think that I'd like to tap some of the folks at the website team in order to get some graphics to put on the cards, maybe just like a, I don't know, we have a couple of different versions floating around of like the flag with the pirate flag with the bear on it, and there's one with like the bear's head. So I just want to, you know, just kind of get some ideas for what we can put on a card, and then just do a version that's pretty simple that has like our Facebook and our website on the back of it. Just stuff like that. So I will look into that over the next couple of weeks. Thank you.
Cool.
We're missing some officers here today. Jorge is not available to give the vice president's report, so I'll go ahead and fill in for him. He says that they're still working on deploying the new chat technology. That's the one that Orion had mentioned before. Right now, it's we're working on Rocket Chat, and we have a functional version that's able to link the Rocket Chat application up with a Slack channel, and it appears to have some improved functionality in terms of like user interface and ability to like customize different settings. It also allows you to have a unified, from what I understand, it's a unified login, so you don't have to create your own Slack account. You should be able to access it through like your Gmail or whatever account that you're using. So we'll have some more information on rolling that out and how folks can better access that. I also think, well, I'll get to that in a little bit. Orion also mentioned yeah, we took care of the banking stuff a couple weeks ago, and our accounts are active. So once we get our paperwork verified by the state, we're good to go for donation drives. In terms of some of the team reports from social media, we have Brendan here, who was nominated a couple of weeks ago in order to assume the social media director position. I just wanted to see if you had any thoughts on. I know that you had put out a 3-page proposition a couple weeks ago, Brandon, about just kind of restructuring the social media team so that we can be a little bit more effective in our communication with each other, but also with other people. I just wanted to check in to see if you had any thoughts about that, or if just kind of any thoughts about running like social media.
Yeah, I mean, I think that one of the things that hinges on is having the website, the new website launched before we do a really big social media push. But at the same time, that those channels should be somewhat active. Facebook obviously is the best right now, but in regards to what Orion was saying earlier in terms of blog content, that's something that we could even get started on now in terms of getting people to you know, submit ideas or articles, and we'll also need at least one other person who can act as sort of an independent editor on any blog entries, because I think anything that goes up on the official blog should be sort of vetted and you know, copy edited at least before it goes up. So those are my basic early thoughts.
Yeah, totally. I mean, when we first started doing it, I basically just sent out a message to all the people who had supported the Pirate Party, asking them if they wanted to write basically just like a few paragraphs about anything, as long as it was political and relevant to the Pirate Party. Even if they were just like making controversial arguments to generate debate, that was cool. And then they ended up emailing them all to me. I would format them and edit them and add like images and stuff. And that's most of the stuff that you see on the blog right now, you know, on the current website, is I think Bryce wrote an article about food security that was posted on the blog as one of our first ones. And I thought it was really cool because at least it was an example of the type of discourse that we are advocating for in terms of, you know, the new digital model of direct democracy. And so it's at least a beginning point, because we never really got our forums on the website like active, you know, and so it's the best example other than like sharing links and stuff, which is most of the stuff that happens on Reddit and Facebook.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, go for it.
Oh no, so no, I was just going to say, yeah, exactly. That it would be great to have a spot for that on there too. But in terms of the first thing I think that's really important is sort of getting content on the site that lets people know sort of what really quickly and easily, like what the Pirate Party is, where we stand on certain issues, especially in terms of stuff that's relatively that shouldn't be very controversial, like stuff like basic human rights and tech stuff.
Yeah, all the things that you would find on the Wikipedia entry for a pirate party, you know? Yeah.
Exactly. And then in terms of discussion and something like that, like, yeah, it would be great to have a forum. I don't know what I'm only kind of following what's going on on the website and how far off that idea is, but
no, I mean, I'm not. I actually don't think that a forum on our website is going to be a really valuable thing. I think that we've moved beyond that, you know, and the fact that it was never really active kind of proves the point. But we should at least be working on developing a little bit more sophisticated explanations for our arguments as examples of the type of discourse that we want. And I think the blog can do that, and we can post links to Facebook and Reddit whenever we have a blog post that we want to. Yeah. All of them should be advertised, you know. So, but I totally understand that launching the new version of the website is sort of a priority in terms of like really doing a social media push, like you mentioned.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that we can't start sort of recruiting for some blog topics so that we can have some content to launch with, new content to launch with too.
Yeah, yeah.
And the other idea that I kind of floated in the social media proposal was of having like a newsletter that goes out maybe once a month or so, that just has some of those blog articles and kind of what's going on, just something so that people don't have to actively necessarily go to the sites, or if it doesn't show up in their Facebook feed, that they don't immediately sort of forget about us. So that I found that can be kind of effective, is just have, and then it's also something to be able to get email addresses with, so that we can send out information now.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, one of the things that I had a question about, and maybe the two of you can just kind of give me some feedback on it, but how wide of a net do you think we should be soliciting like paragraphs for? Like, is this a thing that you think we can do like a quick drive on the Slack channel and say, hey, we're accepting submissions for blog posts, write us up a few paragraphs and submit it to us? Or is this something that you think we could even take it to Facebook and say, we have almost 1,500 people on Facebook. Can we just say, hey, do you have like thoughts on the Pirate Party? Like, what's, write us a few paragraphs on an issue that you think is important.
I mean, yeah, I actually think that's a great idea. I think that we should also be clear about just a couple of like the basic sort of standards that we expect, which I think I laid out kind of in here in the proposal. So.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. The answers are yes and yes, Bryce. Honestly, as having done this before, I can tell you that sort of an open advertisement on Facebook, it's a good idea and we should do it. But I don't think that it's necessarily going to bring a lot of people wanting to do it. Some people might have a specific issue that they want to raise awareness for and write about, and that'd be awesome. And so we should advertise that opportunity to them. But the place where I think we might find more action is that there's a channel on the Slack that is for debating policy things, and I know that there's already some good substantive conversations going on in those conversations. And so, I mean, I envision a world where, you know, some of the people on Slack might be willing to translate those debates that are happening there into a blog post. And that might, you know what I mean? Like that's having the people that are currently active on Slack and already participating in the conversations to sort of translate those ideas into like a 3-paragraph blog post, I think is not too difficult of a specific target beyond casting a wide net on Facebook. You know what I mean?
Right, right. And I actually just had the idea of, you know, speaking of tapping into some of the debates that's happened on Slack, it would be kind of cool to get some folks with some differing opinions to write up a couple, maybe to write up one paragraph that sort of explains their argument, and then they write another paragraph that answers the other person's argument. So somebody that's for one issue and con for the same issue can, you know, they write up a paragraph defending their stuff, and then each write paragraphs that are sort of answering each other's arguments. I think that something like that would kind of be just kind of a neat and quick way of you know, just kind of thinking about both sides of an issue and helping get some folks started on some bigger research projects.
Yeah, no, that sounds great.
And even if you have already got some research that you've done already and want to give it another go, I'm down for that too. Like I used the blog to repost my master's thesis about surfing and philosophy when everyone was releasing their published work for free in support of Aaron Swartz. You know, so I mean, that's if you already have work that you've done that's relevant to the conversation, we can post that too.
Yeah, yeah, I dig it. Let's keep this conversation going. Obviously, I think like what we were talking, it hinges on the deployment of the website. I think that's, you know, just first and foremost. That actually brings me to the next point here, which is that on the Slack channel, Laura was soliciting feedback on the website design theme. You can check out the polls section of the Slack channel. We have a couple of different themes that have been posted there, and they include both websites for like desktop computer and a mobile version for folks to use. So please, please, please check in with the Slack channel and go to that particular channel and vote on the theme so that we can get as much feedback on how to deploy it as best as we can. The next item I have here is from the outreach team. The San Francisco Bay Area Pirates met on President's Day. We discussed we actually had a really good discussion that encompassed a bunch of topics. Primarily, Michael was sharing some of the online tools that he's been working on. The Consider It is one of the websites that he posted to the Slack channel a couple weeks ago. And he was explaining to me that it's actually a pretty cool use of technology where we can vote on issues depending on a like a -1 through 1 scale, where we just kind of drag a slider on how much we agree on an issue. And it kind of just gives a way to just break down like people's position on different issues and gives them a space to kind of make arguments and defend their position. And as more arguments get kind of used and discussed, then people have the option of moving their slider to better reflect on, you know, if they've been convinced by a different argument on something. It's right now, I think the Consider It website has about, for pirates, it has about 3 pirates that are using it. So definitely recommend that you all check it out and sign up for it and see about, maybe we can see about using that more to kind of have some of these debates on what our platform issues are. I think the best way to sum up how our meeting went down is that it was a dialogue on using technology to change activism and using activism to change technology. You know, we talked about you know, how we can how technology can and being more familiar with technology can encourage different social activist groups in order to help move their agendas along, which are generally like consistent with ours, you know, anti-fascist, you know, free access to information, and how to use it in a way that best protects their own needs. So that event went really well, and we're talking about planning another one, maybe somewhere in the East Bay, to try to get some folks that are living in the in Alameda County and beyond to kind of get them a little bit more involved.
I'd like to do something in Sacramento too.
Okay. I think that that's a great idea. At like the Capitol?
Sure, we could go to the Capitol. There's a lot of really good venues that we could just choose as public spaces to meet up. I think maybe sometime in April, maybe to try. Well, no, sometime in late March, I'd be willing to do it.
All right. Let's talk. I'll actually be out of town at the end of March. But
Okay.
maybe, yeah, April is looking pretty clear for me right now. Maybe early April.
Okay.
The last, yeah, the last bit that I had on my list, on my agenda list, is just a lot of thanks to Michael and Karthik, who launched the Considerate application. I'll put a link to it in the meeting minutes so that y'all can check it out. But absolutely sign up for it. Absolutely check it out, and let's start using it for some of our platform issues to try to get some of these ideas debated and use that to inform some meaningful action. So that's
is that the end?
That's what I've got. Do you have anything else?
Yeah, I want to just mention in response to what you said, I read a very interesting article the other day about as the internet has evolved, it's created manipulated markets without people noticing that was happening. And I just wanted to share the idea really quick. I mean, the article basically said that when the internet was first created, people thought that it would be used in order to generate new markets and new opportunities for people. And one example of that is like eBay, right? When the internet was still young, eBay was created. It provided people an opportunity to sell and buy products and engage with each other on a market that they couldn't before. And so it sort of like made it was a bottom-up or horizontal way of creating new markets for people. Well, then, Google comes onto the scene, and Google starts filtering people's search results based on an algorithm of, how many algorithm based on a variety of different factors. And so people started like doing things to their websites in order to meet the algorithm so they would show up on the search filters. Well, the problem is that over time, spammers and scammers ended up manipulating the algorithm, so Google had to change the algorithm so that you would get legitimate results. But that inadvertently created the consequence of smaller companies all not being able to constantly change the way that their websites operated so that it would comply or comport with Google's ever-changing algorithm, which ended up privileging sort of large companies that could keep up versus smaller companies that had to pay. They just paid for like a basic publishing tools set, that was going to comply with, it'd be a universal stamp, I guess, that would work. So and then the next phase in the evolution was that once the markets became, sort of top heavy with the richer companies, you have the next iteration of companies using their own programs or their own infrastructure to privilege their products over other products. And so an example of this is when you go to Amazon and you do a search, Amazon will show you the products that are backed by and produced by Amazon before they show you the other things, even if those other things are cheaper, right? And so it's like Amazon gets free advertising for their own products in a market that is they get to manipulate because it's their website, right? And so it basically is a fake market that has been created as a result of the ever-changing rules online. And then the next step beyond that is to create imaginary markets when they don't actually exist. So the example of that is, there are news reports of Uber actually showing people cars in their area that aren't actually there. They're like ghost cars, right? And no one knows how driver and person that's trying to get a ride actually get matched up with each other. That process is like opaque to them, which means it's not really a market. The person who's riding doesn't get to choose which driver comes to pick them up. I mean, there are some things about that, but you know, I mean, it was a very interesting article about how our, you know, short-term gains created through technological developments are ending up sometimes creating long-term disasters. And it was a very interesting conversation that I think, you know, is relevant to how we discuss the potential power of technology. You know, I mean, technology could be good, it could be bad, it depends on how you use it. And so that's one of my concerns as a citizen of, you know, and member of the Pirate Party is, you know, how to make sure that we use technology in responsible ways that don't end up screwing people, even though they seem like they're short-term gains. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, that actually makes sense. That's actually something we were talking about last week during the meetup. Is that especially for and I'm not super familiar with like a company like Reddit, but Michael was sharing how you know, in Reddit, whenever you make a subreddit, like the person that made it has ownership over that domain. Like that sort of that becomes theirs. They can select moderators, and there's sort of the illusion that people have a say in like who the moderators are and sort of the filtration of content that gets posted. But in the end, it's really, you know, up to the one guy, the one person who made it up. You know, they're the one that kind of laid claim to that subreddit, and it's that kind of inherently makes it so that on that platform, to some degree, free speech isn't necessarily like possible, because there's always one person that gets to kind of filter out what gets said, and because of that, there's this it's allows like this kind of manipulation of the culture where it's, you know, you see a lot of things like echo chambers that happen where people just, you know, people who provide dissenting opinions just get downvoted into absolutely nothing. And there's never really any like back and forth, any debate on any one of these issues. And I think that that's his point was that was one of the problems that's been plaguing so much of the internet. It's just that the technology hasn't been there to allow people to have the kind of discussions that would you know, allow us to like look at many different products that are being posted to Amazon and to truly say like, this is the best product for me because XYZ, despite whatever Amazon endorses. So it's interesting.
That is really interesting.
The other one that I was reading, there was, I mean, not to get super off topic, but the other one that I was reading was about how like Reddit is able to manipulate the articles that get posted based upon like companies that, you know, you pay them like $200 and they have a bunch of people and computers that upvote different articles all the way to the top, so that people kind of get informed of certain things based on like predetermined technology and purchasing power.
Yeah, that I watched those videos. Actually, they made it to the top of the video page on Reddit.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess, can I say one more thing and then we can leave?
Yeah, go for it.
I just so I got to admit, I really, there are lots of different entry points that are important to me as a member of the Pirate Party. I get that like a lot of the people that come to the Pirate Party are technology people, and you know, people for whom freedom of information and copyright reform are like important reasons, like, you know, main drivers of the motivation to be part of the Pirate Party. But like for me, I actually am kind of obsessed with the history of the actual, like during the golden age of piracy, the actual Pirates of the Caribbean. And I think there's a lot of super interesting ideas related to pirate philosophy, and, you know, have studied it for quite some time now. And so, you know, I mean, one of the things that was interesting was that, you know, when pirate crews actually started sailing the seas, they were mostly made up of people who were outcasts from society, you know, freed slaves, ex-prostitutes, people who were disabled, had their legs chopped off, and like, you know, or otherwise seen by society as unvaluable, and they used the space of pirate ships in order to like find their own democratic spaces where they could, you know, create rules and have conversations with each other. It really was kind of freedom, you know? And I don't think that those arguments are inconsistent or irrelevant to pirate parties as they exist today, you know? So the one thing that I wanted to do before we left is there's this book that we provided free copies of it. We provided copies of it on the website in the last few years. It's been a while. It's called Women, Pirates, and the Politics of the Jolly Roger. And I think it's a really fantastic book. There's just a couple paragraphs here that I wanted to read because I think they're kind of poetic. So, and then we can stop. Is that okay? Can I read them?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. All right. This is from a section on the book about freedom. This is what it says. Unemployment, subjugation, and exploitation, threat of punishments, lust for adventure, and boredom. Many reasons are given for why so many men and women ran off to live as pirates during the 17th century. For those seeking individuality, wealth, and flight from oppression, life on board a pirate ship offered incomparable possibilities. What do all these reasons have in common? Breaking out of structured obedience, preset orders, and moral unities, escape from assigned roles, authoritarian hierarchies, and a perpetually expanding apparatus of control and supervision. In short, flight from everything that reeks of an increasingly powerful bourgeois society. Instead, there is a plunge into a world of unpredictability, danger, excitement, excess living, fast death, of war, adventure, hunt, dance, fighting games, and everything that strong, free, cheerful action implies. A world of fluctuation, sometimes on this ship, sometimes on that, sometimes this tour of plunder, sometimes that, sometimes these rules, sometimes those. A world within which the individual always remains singular, however, always one's own person, only connecting with others in order to be stronger and have fun, and disconnecting what that is no longer the case. For ego knows no commandment of loyalty, dependency, and so on. Accordingly, it's been observed that pirate crews have high turnover, that the pirates were a fluctuating pack in every way, constantly in motion, changing in number or composition from one month to the next, nothing and no one, neither ship nor captain or any matter bound to them, obligated obedience. Those who flee the state discover that they have joined a molecular world. I just thought that was kind of interesting. I like the phrasing of that, you know? I mean, for me, the translation there is that no idea is safe from our testing and attack. You know, like in a democratic world, no ideas are so sacred that they can't actually be discussed or debated about. And that sort of intellectual freedom is one of the things that I think is going to help us beat fascism and authoritarianism. So, you know, I wanted to use at least a couple minutes of the meeting to say yar.
Yar. Yar, thank you. Yeah, that was good. That was good.
Cool.
Let's why don't you send me a copy of that, and I'll see about getting that posted on the meeting minutes as well so that folks can take a look at it.
Cool. Sounds good.
All right, all right. Any of the other folks here have any last remarks? No.
I did actually.
Yeah.
So in terms of if we're going to put the position of social media manager director to a vote, do we do that on polls, or is there another place that we want to actually do that?
Yeah, let's post it in polls. Yeah, we can see about doing that tonight, and then maybe
I would like to also get it done as quickly as possible because I can't imagine the vote going no. You know, I mean, like, so it seems like a formality we got to do. So let's put it on tonight, and by midnight tonight, that'll be the end of the poll. Is that okay?
I thought maybe giving a little longer.
Yeah, it'll give it at least 24 hours.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. 24 hours.
Why don't we?
Just as yeah.
Maybe we can say by like Friday or something, or is that too long?
Give it 24 hours.
Okay.
Yeah, 8 p.m. tomorrow.
All right, sounds good.
Okay.
Cool. Thanks everybody for making it, and let's see, we're next up on what's that? March 13th.
Cool.
Okay. Thanks.
See you all then. Bye-bye.
Thank you. See you then. Bye.